Republicans dead. Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
The women with the least likelihood of getting pregnant are the ones most worried about having abortions.
On January 6th of 2021, you had tens of thousands of people peacefully protesting.
No, it's not a right-wing conspiracy theory. It's not QAnon. It's real.
Hey folks, it's Rick Wilson. Welcome back as always to the Enemies List. We are delighted today to be joined by Mallory McMorrow. You know Mallory, Michigan senator, state senator, maybe another kind of senator at some point soon. You know Mallory for being one of those courageous voices that has been standing up over and over and over again, showing folks in this moment of political anxiety and fear and depression, honestly, how to fight. And I love folks who are fighters. I am drawn to stories of people who tell folks how to stand up. And one of the things about you, Mallory, that's always appealed to me is that you have a sort of determination and optimism about our ability to succeed in this whole thing and our ability to get through it. You've got a great new book coming out called Hate Won't Win. And it's Find Your Power and Leave This Place Better Than You Found It. I love that idea. So I want to talk to you today about three things. Tell us first about the book, then let's talk about where you see the country, and then let's talk about what your plans are.
That sounds good. Also,
beginning
what an
with
intro.
the book,
let's... My goodness. Hype man. You should come with me everywhere, Rick.
I'm available for weddings and bar mitzvahs. So tell us about the book. What inspired you to write this book? And tell people what you want them to take away from this book when they read it.
So I wrote this book every morning from about 4 to 7 a.m. for a year. And I was approached by a number of publishers. In 2022, I gave a speech that went crazy viral in response to a pretty horrific, slanderous attack from a Republican colleague. And I turned those offers down in that moment because I didn't know what to write. I had opened a PAC. We were using that moment and media attention to fundraise to help flip the Michigan State Senate. But throughout the course of that year, I traveled the country. I was in more than a dozen states. I talked to thousands of people from all different backgrounds who all said some version of the same thing, which was, I'm so overwhelmed. I know I have to do something. I have no idea where to start. So I don't do anything. And so that's what this book is. It is half memoir, and the memoir portion, I hope, is really to pull the wool back and show people I am a regular person. I had no unique background to get into politics. I quite literally Googled how to run for office in the wake of the 2016 election. So wherever you are, you're exactly where I was. And I also, I talk about all of the hurdles that were in place once I took office. We had violent armed protesters in our capital here in Michigan. I was sexually harassed by a colleague during sexual harassment training, which life is like an episode of Veep, it turns out. And I learned that after all this work, I thought I had power and I didn't. But then I learned the way that I actually have power is through using my voice and in bringing people together. So that's what the book shows. And then the second half is a very practical step-by-step guide, a how-to for anybody and everybody to learn how to find your motivation, how to tell a compelling story in a way that will reach people and hopefully change their mind and bring them to your side, on how to advocate effectively with elected officials, what to do, what not to do. And there's a workbook section in the back so that you can actually get a journal. There's exercises for you to find out, what works for you. And my hope is that people get inspired by maybe my own story, realize that they can do it too. Any of us can do this. That's the beauty of democracy, is that all of us can and should participate. We don't need any special skills. And take our country back. This is only going to work if all of us participate every day and buck the Donald Trump ethos of trying to overwhelm us with so much garbage that we just give up. We can't give up. We all got to get engaged right now.
So The fact that you Googled how to run for office is one of the greatest stories I've ever heard in my life. What was your background before that? And I know you said you had no special background, but this is another question I really like to ask elected officials. Like, and one of the questions I used to ask when I was pitching clients and deciding if I was going to either work for somebody or not, I would ask them like, what were your summer jobs? What'd your family do? Where are you from?
Oh, yeah.
Talk about your background a little bit, because I think that's something that people would be interested to know, that you didn't come out of a famous political family. You weren't part of some machine. You didn't like go to a school to train to become a politician. You just decided you wanted to serve.
Totally. Yeah. So I grew up in rural New Jersey, which I swear is a real place. It's the Garden
It's a
State
real
for a reason.
place.
Real place. In a house that was just about as old as the country, 200 plus years old, super fun. It was a boarding house. It was between two cemeteries and a volunteer fire department. And I loved it. You know, my mom really organized this small village, and she would host hay rides and townwide yard sales. And I've been working since I was 12. My first job, I served coffee at the firehouse bingo night. And then I worked at a family run grocery store. I got promoted to become a manager when I was 16. And I was serving cigarettes and lotto, which was illegal. So, you know, that's fine. They didn't, I guess I managed myself well enough. I bartended my way through school. I was a research assistant. And then I graduated from Notre Dame with a degree in industrial design. So I always wanted to be a car designer. I graduated college in 2008, quite possibly the worst time in American history to try to be a car designer. So I had a great internship at Mazda. I designed a concept car in 2007, and then I didn't have a job. So I briefly lived in the back of my car. I had no health insurance. I applied to something like 300 jobs and eventually found my way into Mattel, where I worked my way up to being a senior designer over global branding and licensing, predominantly for Hot Wheels.
Nice.
And yeah, I have a Hot Wheels car with my name on it. There's one that's
Nice.
like Mallory and a little racing graphic. So playing the long game with 4-year-olds who think I'm super cool. And when they're eligible to vote, they'll be right there. But yeah, so I left there. I worked in media and advertising. And at the time in Michigan, I was running my own consultancy doing product planning for Hyundai Kia and for small businesses on kind of their branding identity. And then I looked at what was happening in our country in 2016, and there was a video that went viral of middle school students chanting "Build That Wall" at another student. And that video was from Royal Oak Middle School, which was my polling place.
Sure.
And that was the moment where I watched. It's terrifying when you see that it's kids that have learned that this is okay, and they're banging on the tables in the lunchroom, and this poor girl is just devastated. And that broke me. So that's when I Googled how to run for office, and here we are. It's that easy. You just do it.
It's a pretty straight line. No, I think though that response though to the cruelty is something that I have a theory of the case that too many Americans, and I bluntly call it the shit filter, where people just like they reach a point and they switch off. They can't, even though they see things that are wrong and terrible, they can't like see the next step of, I have to do this. I have to fix this. I have to step in. And I think it's interesting that you saw something like that, because that's kind of a very modern thing about it. You know, it didn't affect you personally, but it affected your heart and where you were as a human being. And I think that the purpose of a lot of the loud noises and the craziness and the cruelty is to shut people down. And so it sounds like this book is like a remedy to that for a lot of folks, where they're going to be able to say, "Oh, I'm not helpless. I'm not lost. I'm not the only person seeing this. I'm not the only person feeling this, that this is wrong and things are off the rails."
I think that's right. You know, and I also make the point in the book, it deviates a little bit to talk about kind of how we exist in this moment. And I advocate for things like leaving your cell phone out of your room and subscribing to newspapers, and how to have a healthy relationship with the news and with media, so that you don't get, you think about social media and algorithms that are designed to keep you online as long as possible on the platform. it is just going to continually serve you buzzes and beeps and dings and videos of the most horrific, craven, horrible, heartbreaking things you'll ever see. And I don't believe, as human beings, we weren't made to take in that much. And it does wear us down. So, I think really letting news not control you, you control your engagement with it. Don't check out, but also don't feel like you have to be glued to it 24 hours a day, because you can't sustain that. So I think for this moment, because it was so close to home, it was my literal backyard. It was like 2 blocks away from my house, and it was where I was standing the day before to vote for what I had hoped would not only be the first woman president, but a return to normalcy. We had my husband and I, the night of the election in 2016, we just ordered wings and got beer, and it was just me and him and his best friend, who was always kind of a moderate Republican. And we sat together and we said, well, we're going to get back to normal. This is the moment we can drink to this crazy Trump campaign being over. And then that's not what happened. And I just, I think in that moment, because it was so close to home, it wasn't something far away, that I decided I have to do something about it.
So now we are in our 785th year of Donald Trump being the center of gravity of American politics. And I've been reincarnated 17 times. It just takes forever. We are in now Trump's second term. We are now in a second term that is vastly worse than even folks who are deeply skeptical of Donald Trump, myself being one of those, could have anticipated. The degree of lawlessness and corruption and cruelty and insanity is absolutely chart-topping. And I want to get your take right now, because this is a question I get asked a lot, and it does harken back to the book somewhat. What should people do? What is your counsel to folks when they come to you and say, what should I do?
So first of all, I want to start with, I have felt more optimistic in the last few weeks than I have since this presidency started. It feels like, yes, Donald Trump bumbled through the first presidency. He, reading that he thought that all of the staff were going to stay on from the previous administration, and not realizing he would have to hire people. And, there were people in that administration who were career civil servants who checked him when he went too far. But now he's coming in, and I hate to be that person who's like, I told you so. But, I carried the big version of Project 2025 at the DNC, and I slammed it down. And the number of people afterwards who said, you were lying, this is not his plan. And now you have the architects of Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation talking about how it's going swimmingly and they're ahead of schedule. It is devastating. And I think for the first month or so of this presidency, people were in such a state of paralysis of even figuring out what to do, that we didn't see the same protests like we saw after 2016. We didn't see the same energy. But over the last few weeks, we have seen at every town hall or coffee hour or on my social media, I post every week Q&A. I tell people to ask me anything. And every week I get hundreds of questions at our town halls, places where I'm a state legislator. Most people don't know who their state legislator is. In places where I usually get 5 to 12 people who are very engaged, I'm getting hundreds of people come out who are asking that same question. What do I do? Not just yelling at the Democrats to do something. They want to know what they can do. So I tell people 3 things. Number 1, sign up for your elected officials' official newsletters. Find out who represents you at every level, not just the U.S. Senate, not just the Congress, but your state legislators, your local city council people. Sign up for their official emails so that you know what they're working on and it comes to you and you can engage with that and just start to get to know them. Number 2, really take time, and I go through this in the book, figure out what your one issue is. I think people right now in this moment have been telling me, I'm calling my Congress member constantly and I'm emailing them, all of these things, and I'm burned out. You need to find the one thing that is going to motivate you every single day to keep going, and trust that if we all do that, we're going to be okay. And it gives you the freedom to kind of let go of having to respond to everything else. So whether that is public schools, whether, that's something that really moves you, or water quality issues in a place here like Michigan, or gun violence, or the courts, that is something people don't realize. A lot of judges are elected. Whatever it is that motivates you, pick that one thing and focus on that. Find an advocacy group who does that work and join them. Go to meetings, learn how to become a better advocate. And then the third thing is tell one friend, just one. There are so many people who did not vote, who did not participate, and you have so much power and influence over the people in your life who love you and trust you, who may not know that they have power too. So those are my three things. And if everybody does that, we are on the path to being okay.
One of the things that in Michigan, you guys must really be feeling some of the trade war pressure right now, because you have such an intimate relationship with Canada as an economic partner. Back in the day, I remember that there was some meaningful fraction of the entire U.S. GDP back when it was just the Ambassador Bridge that was flowing over that bridge every single day, and the Gordie House still being built, but and the relationship between Canada and Michigan in particular was almost seamless. It was almost like frictionless. How is Michigan responding to the trade war problem right now? I have to imagine that even a lot of Trump supporters in the state who were involved in manufacturing and industrial products and automotive and everything else are looking at this and saying to Trump, well, we didn't sign up for this part.
What I want a lot of people to realize about Michigan, particularly the Metro Detroit area where I live, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of people who live on either side of the border, who commute every day between Michigan and Canada for work, who live in one country, work in the other, or vice versa. You take a wrong turn in Detroit, and it's very easy to do it. You're accidentally in Canada. It happens all the time. For us, the automotive industry is our signature industry, and the process of building a car can cross the border 7, 10 times, if not more, in the process of being built. And if you imagine a 25% tariff is put on those parts every time it crosses the border, we've now seen estimates where the price of a new car will go up anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 at a moment when people's cost of living is their number one concern. On top of the fact that Canada, the Ontario Premier, is threatening with increasing our energy costs. We import energy from Canada. So $100 a year where our energy costs might go up. And there's a relationship here where a lot of our unions and manufacturing was devastated by NAFTA, where there's a sense that tariffs are not inherently bad. However, you cannot just throw shit against the wall and hope it works. It has to be thoughtful. We should not be adding punitive tariffs on our allies and our manufacturing partners. Tariffs on China, sure. Tariffs on maybe Canadian steel, that's something where we have to kind of balance between the two. But this wholesale 25% tariffs across the board, and then maybe there's enough pressure and he's going to pull back. Markets need certainty. We need to know that we can plan. Supply chains need certainty. And this is just causing chaos across the board.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that is going to hit Michigan. All the upper tier states are going to just take it. They're going to get punched right in the face by this stuff. And again, like I said, I used to do a lot of work in Michigan, and the frictionlessness of the cross-border economy was something that I really thought was like, this is how two modern, deeply allied, deeply friendly neighbors behave.
Right. So I signed up. I've done it twice now. I signed up this year, which may or may not be a good decision, for the Detroit Free Press International Half Marathon. It's amazing. Okay. You wake up, you run over the bridge to Canada, you come back through the tunnel, and there's people on either side who are cheering you on and giving you high fives. It is one of the coolest experiences, and it's, I think, the only international marathon and half marathon in the world. I'm not even sure that Canada's going to want us this year.
Right. Yeah. It is. It is, like I said. I just had a great recollection of how friendly and how just it was taken for granted that both sides were working and they were everybody was gonna do okay.
Yeah, it's just like another, it's another part of Detroit. We don't even think of it as another country.
So you've got a book coming out.
I do.
And in a couple of days, and I encourage folks to go ahead and get it. And you're going to be in the spotlight. People are going to ask you this question a lot. What's your plan next? You have clearly built a national reputation as somebody who's willing to go out and be articulate and passionate and engaged and a fighter. So what's next for you? What are you looking at in the future? And I'm leaving the question open-ended for you. See how nice I am? I'm leaving the question way open-ended for you. So I'm just curious what your plan is for the future.
Yeah, so Gary Peters announced that he will not seek re-election to the U.S. Senate. And since that announcement, I have taken a very, very serious look at that seat. To put this into context, it probably took me about 8 months to decide to run for state Senate the first time around, from that first Googling to all of the steps I needed to do. In this moment where I don't believe that we see the Democratic Party writ large standing up to fight back and also deliver a clear vision for a future that people want to be a part of, I think this may be a path to do that and to do it from a state like Michigan. So I haven't made it a firm decision yet. It's a big decision. It's a big state, but expect an announcement very soon.
Well, I wish you all the very best on that. And look, I truly believe there's a moment that I think you've realized it from watching your career, watching how you've communicated with folks. The Democrats have to talk to people differently. And I think because you are from Michigan, Democrats in Michigan have always had to talk to people differently than in the rest of the country, because, you have managed to retain a connection to the lives of working class people. And that is something that is much harder for Democrats to do in a lot of other states. And I think that your language is practical and direct and real. And I encourage you to stick with that as you go forward here, because we need every hand to the tiller, every hand to an oar in the next couple of months as we start to line up the 2026 races across the country. And I think you're going to do a tremendous job. And I look forward to having you back on the show. And we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mallory. Hey, everybody. It's Friday, the 21st of March. While I am recording this, Elon Musk is in the Pentagon with SecDrunk, not SecDef, SecDrunk Pete Hegseth. Elon Musk is being briefed pretty much as I'm recording this on America's most secret war plans against China. And I know, like me, you don't wake up every morning and think about what the O plan, the OP plan is against China. But suffice it to say, they are our only peer adversary in the Pacific. Suffice it to say, the military has spent countless years and billions of dollars designing a way to counter a growing Chinese military threat in the Pacific. And now, SecDrunk and the President of the United States have sent Elon Musk to the Pentagon. A ketamine-fueled South African psychotic is being briefed on our most secret war plans against China. Now, in the words of the great Dwight D. Eisenhower, are you fucking kidding me, son? If you do not understand how insane this is, let me break it down for you. Elon Musk has a supply chain dependent upon China. Elon Musk has massive investments in the Gigafactory Shanghai and other facilities in China. Tesla views China as one of its primary markets for expansion. Tesla's battery capability depends on China. Everything Elon Musk does for Tesla and with Tesla has a dependency state on the goodwill of the Chinese Communist Party government. And now, SecDrunk Hegseth and Donald Trump have sent Elon Musk to get briefed on the crown jewels of American national security planning in the Pacific. This moment should tell you everything, because Elon Musk is a security risk of a degree and stature that I can hardly even express to you in words. No one with his lifestyle, his contacts with foreign governments and foreign leadership, his drug addictions, his behavior, his entire package, he would be disqualified from holding a clearance that would suffice to get him in the room for these compartmented sensitive intelligence matters. There's no world where you want Elon Musk knowing America's strategy in a war against China, the technical and tactical details of how we would counter Chinese systems, the intelligence platforms and resources on which we would rely to counter China, the deployment and allocation of ammunition and assets and weapon systems across the theater. No one needs to give that to Elon Musk, and yet it will happen today. He will be briefed on America's most secret war plans for a conflict with China today. Let me tell you the phone call that's about to happen. They have somebody, I don't know who, that is the point of contact for Tesla with the Chinese government. Probably trade minister or something. I don't know who it is. But I can tell you what's going to happen. Elon's going to get a phone call. Mr. Musk, this is Deputy Trade Minister or Trade Minister so-and-so. I'm sitting here with my colleagues from the Chinese Politburo, and I just want to tell you how wonderful our relationship with you is right now. We're honored that you're building your product in China. We look forward to a long and prosperous relationship with you and your companies in the People's Republic. We are dedicated to maintaining a supply chain relationship and a sales relationship, and serving as a place where Tesla can profit wonderfully. We do, however, have a few concerns about international security matters that we would like to discuss with you. We look forward to seeing you in Beijing in the next 36 to 48 hours for candid discussions. They're going to tell Elon Musk, they're going to pop his balloon with the Chinese supply chain if he doesn't tell them what he gets briefed on today. And Elon Musk doesn't give a fuck about this country. He doesn't give a fuck about America. He doesn't give a shit about our security. He cares about his bottom line. Think about this. Elon Musk has criticized Vladimir Zelensky several hundred times on his platform. He's criticized leaders in Germany, France, the UK, any other American ally, Australia, any other American ally. Absolutely free reign, goes at him. You know who Elon Musk has never once said a critical word about on Twitter or anywhere? China. Not a word, not ever, not once. So he calls up Xi after this whole thing happens. And I'm sure he's going to say, we can work well together. If you don't understand the betrayal of this country's security in global political terms, I want you to think about it this way. The data and information Elon Musk will take today from the Pentagon will allow the Chinese, because he will give it to them, it will allow the Chinese to kill American soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines if there's ever a conflict. It will give China a decisive advantage if there's ever a conflict. These plans that we build are not instruments that get revised easily. They are not spur of the moment. They are not casually drawn up. They take years. They take decades in some cases. And the lives of the men and women, if Pete had success, still allows women in the services, the lives of the men and women who've sworn a duty to protect this country will be at risk from the Chinese military because of Elon Musk. And that, my friend, puts old Elon once again at the top of the enemies list.